Kotse sa France nauwi sa karambola ng mga sasakyan.
Nakaligtas naman kaya mga pulis mula sa insidente? Ang mga susunod pong pangyayari, ating alamin maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Lunes.
United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth bibisita sa Pilipinas ngayong linggo.
ICC inilatag ng timeline para sa disclosure process sa kaso ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo balik na sa tungkulin bilang acting president ng Seoul.
South Korea nagdeklara ng state of emergency dahil sa malawakang wildfires.
At Pinay tennis ace Alex Ayala tinalo si world number 5 Madison Keys sa Miami Open. Kinumpirma ni Philippine Ambassador to Washington Jose Manuel Romualdez na bibisita sa Pilipinas si United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth ngayong linggo.
Ayon kay Ambassador Romualdez, inaasahan na sa pagbisita ni Hegseth sa bansa ay mas palalawigin pa ang modernisasyon ng Armed Forces of the Philippines o AFP. Higit pa rito, inaasahan na makikipagkita si Hegseth kina Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. Binigyan din naman ng Philippine envoy ng pagbisita ng top U.S. official sa bansa ay isang pahiwatig na kung gaano kahalaga ang defense alliance sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos. Anya, isang bentahe na nasa radar ng U.S. ngayon ng Pilipinas at kailangan din ng resource ang sandatahang lakas ng bansa para sa kahit anumang eventuality na magkaroon ng conflict sa Indo-Pacific region. Magugunitang hindi sinama ng Administrasyong Trump sa USAID freeze ang $336 million in assistance para sa modernisasyon ng AFP. Mula rito ay hindi mauudlot ang mga proyektong nasa ilalim ng modernization program nito.
Hinimok po ng Philippine Embassy sa Seoul ang mga Pilipino sa South Korea na huwag sumali sa mga demonstrasyon ng bansa dahil sa umiiral na kilos protesta ng mga taga-suporta at kritiko ni impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. Paalala ng embahada, dapat tumalima ang mga Pilipino sa mga umiiral na batas ng South Korea. Anila, hindi pinahihintulutan na makilahok ang mga banyaga sa mga local political activities katulad ng mga demonstrasyon alinsunod po sa Article 17 of the Immigration Control Act of South Korea. Dahil dito, pinapayuhan din ng mga Pilipino sa South Korea na umiwas na sa mga matataong lugar bilang pag-iingat na rin.
Hindi pinagkibit-balikat ng Malacanang ang issue na ilang mamamayan na peki raw ang in-upload na larawan ni First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. Lumabas noong March 22, Sabado, ang isang larawan na naipost sa official Facebook page ng Unang Ginang. May caption ito on a regular meeting of the Asian Cultural Council, Pangarap Clubhouse, Malacanang ang Park, Maynila, 21st of March 2025. Makikita sa picture na nakasuot ng kulay asul na damit ang First Lady kasama ang kanyang mga bisita. Ngunit may ilang netizens ang nagsasabi na edited ang photo kaya hinamon sila ng Malacanang na magpakita ng ebidensya na magpapatunay kung ang naturang larawan ay na-edit ba o hindi. Depensa pa ni Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro, walang alam tungkol sa nasabing pagpupulong ang mga bumabatikos na peke ang retrato o replato. Nauna na ring itinanggi ni Castro na si First Lady Liza ay kinulong ng mga pulis sa Estados Unidos.
Sinagot naman isa-isa ni Presidential Communications Office or PCO Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro ang mga pahayag ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Pinangunahan ng bise ang isang pagtitipon ng mga taga-suporta ng kanyang ama na si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa The Hague. Kasalukuyang nakakulong ang dating Pangulo sa detention unit ng International Criminal Court sa the Netherlands. Isiniwalat naman ang pangalawang Pangulo ang kanyang pangamba sa seguridad ng kanyang ama. Nabakaan niya matulad ito kay dating Senador Ninoy Aquino na namatay matapos barilin pagbalik nito sa Pilipinas.
Sinabi ko din sa kanya yon pa. Sabi ko, yung kagustuhan mo na umuwi, yan din yung katapusan ng buhay mo. Magiging Ninoy Aquino Junior ka. At sinabi niya sa akin, sabi niya, kung ganyan ang kapalaran ko, then so be it.
Subalit depensa ni Yusek Castro, walang katotohanan ang mga kwento ng bise at nagtatakaan niya sila kung saan nakukuha ng bise ang mga nasabing kwento.
Katotohanan yan. Kailangan po natin kasi ng mga materyales, ng mga ebidensya bago po magsagawa ng ganitong mga klaseng statements.
Sa nasabing rally ay muli rin kinuwestiyon ni VP Sara ang kakayanang pamunuan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang Pilipinas. Hiling kasi ng mga taga-suporta ng dating Pangulong Duterte sa The Hague ay mag-resign na sa pwesto si Marcos. Subalit, sagot ni Castro ay si VP Sara ang makikinabang sa pagre-resign ng Pangulo. Muli ring hinamon ni Castro si VP Sara na umuwi ng Pilipinas para sa obligasyon naman itong ipaliwanag ang ukol sa mga confidential funds.
Kung pinag-resign po nila ang Pangulo, sino po ba ang makikinabang? Kahit sabihin po ni VP Sara o kayo nagsabi niyan, siya pa rin po ang makikinabang. Marami na po ang naglilipa na patungkol sa mga peking resibo na di umano na issue po ng opisina po ni VP Sara. So, mas mabuti po, sinasabi naman po niya na dapat po tayo ay may transparency. Mas maganda po na mauna po siya na ipaliwanag ito.
Tiniyak na Malacanang na nakahanda sila sa ikinasang 3 araw na tigil pasada ng mga transport groups ngayong araw ng Lunes. Ayon sa Department of Transportation, naglaan ang gobyerno ng mga bus at mga karagdagang tren sa MRT3 at LRT Lines 1 and 2 upang umalalay sa mga pasahero maaapektuhan ng tigil pasada. Nagalok din ang Metropolitan Manila Development Authority o MMDA ng free bus rides sa mga commuters. Inaasahang lalahok sa strike ang nasa 100,000 public utility jeepneys.
Triple na ang buwan ng alokasyon ng bigas para sa mga benepisyaryo ng programang P29 ng Administrasyong Marcos. Ayon po yan sa Department of Agriculture o DA. Inanunsyo ni Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. ang agarang pagpapatupad ng bagong patakaran na ito sa buong bansa sa isang job at healthcare fair sa Cavite. Kabilang sa programa ay mga nakatatanda, may kapansanan, solo parents at mga tahanang mahihirap. Mabibili ang P29 na bigas sa mga tindahan ng kadiwa ng Pangulo. Inulunsad noong July 2024 ang programang P29 na naglalayong magbigay ng mas murang bigas sa mga nangangailangan. Kasabay nito ang Rice for All program din ng DA na nag-aalok ng bigas sa mas mababang presyo para sa lahat ng mamimili.
Makalipas po ang 3 linggong rollback sa oil products ay asahan na bukas sa mga motorista ang dagdag presyo naman sa mga ito. Batay sa advisory ng oil industry firms, bukas, March 24, ay patutupad nila ang 1.10 na price hike sa presyo kada litro ng gasolina. Parehong 40 centimos naman ang taas sa presyo kada litro ng diesel at kerosene. Ayon sa Department of Energy, ilan sa dahilan na pagsirit pataas sa presyo ng oil products ay ang lumalalang tensyon sa Middle East at paglulunsad ng airstrikes ng Estados Unidos sa rebeldeng Houthi.
Susunod, South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo balik na sa tungkulin bilang acting president ng Seoul.
Kamustahin naman natin ang pulso ng kalakalan sa Papua New Guinea.
At US President Donald Trump tinalakay ang mga mahalagang paksa sa Oval Office. Mga detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
25 tanong mula Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Tanong ng ordinaryong Pilipino, hindi ng mga eksperto. Isa-isang sasagutin ng mga tatakbo sa Senado, punto por punto. Isang kandidato, 25 tanong ng bayan. A senatorial point of view dito sa NET25.
ESPN. Ano sa palagay nyo? Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga, dito sa NET25.
Together sa NET25.
Nagpasalamat sa Constitutional Court si Prime Minister Han Duck-soo kasunod ng desisyon ng korte na ibalik siya bilang acting president sa South Korea. Matatandaan na noong Disyembre, pinalitan ni Han si impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, ngunit tinanggal din sa pwesto si Han dahil nakaalitan nito ang oposisyon dahil tinanggihan niya ang panukalang magtalaga ng 3 pang justices sa Constitutional Court noon. Pero ayon sa korte, walang sapat na ebidensya para i-impeach si Han dahil walang objective data na kasali ito sa mga aktibong nagpasa ng emergency martial law.
피청구인이 비상계엄 선포에 절차적 정당성을 부여하기 위하여 국무회의 소집을 건의하는 등의 적극적 행위를 하였거나 국회에 비상계엄 해제 요구 결의안 가결 이후 국무회의 소집을 건의하지 않았다는 등의 소추 관련 사실을 인정할 만한 증거나 객관적 자료는 찾을 수 없습니다.
Sa kanyang pagbabalik bilang acting president ay tiniyak ni Han na agad nitong sosolusyonan ang sitwasyon ng bansa. Tiniyak ng opisyal na gagamitin ito ang lahat ng kanyang talino at abilidad upang masiguro ang pambansang interes ng South Korea sa gitna ng trade war.
우리 모든 국민들은 이제는 극렬히 대립하는 정치권에 대해서 그러지 말아야 된다는 목소리를 확실하게 내고 있다고 생각합니다. 이제는 좌우는 없다고 저는 생각합니다. 오로지 우리나라가 위로, 앞으로 발전하는 것이 정말 중요한 우리의 과제다.
Kamustahin naman po natin ang mga negosyo at pulso ng kalakalan sa Papua New Guinea. Alamin natin mula kay NET25 correspondent Eco Ortalesa Quinola ang pananaw para sa mga mangangalakal at manggagawa ng bansa sa darating na taon.
Kamakailan ay sinagawa ang taunang Top 100 CEO Survey upang maging basihan ng positive shift in businesses sa Papua New Guinea. Inorganisa ito ng mga pamunuan ng Port Moresby Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Rio Fiocco at Vice President Shay Scavel. Sa pamamagitan ng Business Advantage International Survey Director Andrew Wilkins, inilathala ni Westpac Senior Economist Justin Smirk na kapansin-pansin ang paglago ng mga Papua New Guinea leading companies. Tinawag itong notable turnaround from year 2024 ni Smirk. Sinasabing ang 40% na kinita noong nakaraang taon ay lumampas ng 30% sa inaasahan. Gayon din ang hindi may tatanggi pagpasok ng mas magandang pananaw sa negosyo para sa taong 2025. Bagamat may mga nagbabadyang balakid na foreign exchange availability, security, pati na law and order, gayon din ang hindi maaasahang kuryente at tubig, naniniwala pa rin ang Port Moresby Chamber of Commerce and Industry or POMCCI na mabilis pa rin ang paglago at pagtaas ng investments at recruitment intentions para sa mga maraming empleyado at manggagawa sa bansa.
It's good to hear the latest in terms of the prediction of our economy, and it looks to me like we are on the road of recovery. In the next few years, it is expected that if we do things right at all levels, including the government level of controlling things, we should be on a road to prosperity as a nation. And from what was presented today, I think a lot of companies are optimistic and are very looking forward to sustainable growth.
Umaasa ang POMCCI na makakapag-anyaya pa ng mas maraming business investors at turismong papasok ng Papua New Guinea. Mula sa Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eko Hortaleza Quinola para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Dahil sa umuugong na education budget cut sa Colorado State sa Estados Unidos, libu-libong mga guro ang nagprotesta. Sinasabing nasa $150 million ang mawawala sa budget ng mga paaralan sakaling maipatupad ang bawas pondong ito. Nasa 3,000 mga guro sa Colorado State ang nagtungo sa Kapitolyo upang magprotesta laban sa napipintong budget cut sa mga paaralan. Ayon sa Colorado Association of School Executives na tumulong sa pag-oorganisa ng rally, bumubuo si Governor Jared Polis ng isang formula na mauuwi sa pagkawala ng $150 million mula sa education budget ng Estado. Ngunit itinanggi ni Polis ang anumang balita ukol sa education funding cuts. Anya, daragdagan pa nga nito ang budget kada estudyante ng $388. Dagdag ni Polis, aabot pa ang kabuuan ng education funding nito sa $138 million. Batay sa tala, higit sa 881,000 ng mga estudyante sa Colorado ang makikinabang sa education funding ng Estado. Ang pondo naman kada estudyante ay nasa $8,400 hanggang $19,700 sa kabuuan ng school districts doon.
Sa Oval Office po, tinalakan naman ni US President Donald Trump ang iba't ibang paksa katulad na lamang ng Boeing F-47 fighter jet contract, pakikipagpulong ni Elon Musk sa Pentagon at ang anyay nalalapit na Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. Narito po si NET25 correspondent Anna Cui para sa mga detalye ng mga balita niyan.
Noong Biyernes, ibinigay ni Pangulong Donald Trump sa Boeing ang kontrata upang buuin ang pinaka-sophisticated na US Air Force fighter jet na tatawaging F-47. Ang Next Generation Air Dominance program na ito ay papalit sa F-22 Raptor ng Lockheed Martin. Magkakaroon ito ng crewed aircraft na handang lumaban katabi ng drones.
After a rigorous and thorough competition between some of America's top aerospace companies, the Air Force is going to be awarding the contract for the Next Generation Air Dominance platform to Boeing. As you know, was highly competed for. There was a lot of competition, generals, and the F-47 will be the most advanced, most capable, most lethal aircraft ever built. An experimental version of the plane has secretly been flying for almost 5 years, and we're confident that it massively overpowers the capabilities of any other nation. There's no other nation. We know every other plane. I've seen every one of them, and it's not even close.
Samantala, ukol naman sa pagpupulong na ginawa ni Elon Musk sa Pentagon, sinabi ni Trump na naroon ito upang talakayin ang mga gastusin. Ito sa kabila ng mga balibalita na naroon si Musk dahil sa planong militar laban sa China.
You know, you're talking about a potential war with China. Now, I deal with these people all the time, and I'm dealing with Pete, I'm dealing with these gentlemen on numerous different airplane purchases, and I think they're all going to be great. But I don't want other people seeing, anybody seeing potential war with China. We don't want to have a potential war with China, but I can tell you if we did, we're very well equipped to handle it. But I don't want to show that to anybody, but certainly you wouldn't show it to a businessman who is helping us so much. He's a great patriot. He's paying a big price for helping us cut costs, and he's doing a great job. He's finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. But I certainly wouldn't want, you know, Elon has businesses in China, and he would be susceptible perhaps to that.
Sinagundahan naman ni US Defense Secretary ang pahayag na ito ng Pangulo.
Elon Musk is an innovator. Elon Musk provides a lot of capabilities our government and our military rely on, and I'm grateful for that. We welcomed him today to the Pentagon to talk about DOGE, to talk about efficiencies, to talk about innovations. It was a great informal conversation. The rest of that reporting was fake. There was no war plans, there was no Chinese war plans, there was no secret plans. That's not what we were doing at the Pentagon.
Ukol naman sa labanan sa pagitan ng Ukraine at Russia, sinabi ng Pangulo na malapit na ang ganap na ceasefire.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a ceasefire on a lot of areas, and so far that's all held very well. And getting that ceasefire, you know, they had a lot of guns pointing at each other. We had some soldiers, unfortunately, surrounded by other soldiers, and they are going to be, I believe, we're going to have pretty soon have a full ceasefire, and then we're going to have a contract. And the contract's being negotiated, the contract in terms of dividing up the lands, et cetera, it's being negotiated as we speak.
Ang pahayag na ito ni Trump ay matapos akusahan ng Russia at Ukraine ng isa't isa noong Biyernes ng pagpapasabog ng isang Russian gas pumping station malapit sa border kung saan nakapwesto ang Ukrainian troops. Ito sa gitna ng pag-uusap sa mungkahing suportado ng US ukol sa moratorium sa pag-atake sa energy infrastructures ng dalawang bansa. Ana Cui para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Itinakda ng International Criminal Court o ICC pre-trial chamber na sa darating na Abril ang evidence disclosure para sa kasong crimes against humanity ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Ibig sabihin nito ay parehong inatasan ng ICC ang prosecution at defense teams ng dating Pangulo na isumite ang lahat ng ebidensya bago ang nakatakdang confirmation of charges hearing sa Setyembre. Nais ng ICC na ilahad na ng prosekusyon bago mag-April 4 ang kabuoang bilang ng mga naisulat na ebidensyang gusto nitong ipresenta sa confirmation hearing. Gayon din ang bilang ng pahina nito at orihinal na lengguwahe ng ebidensya, pati na rin ang wikang gagamitin para sa pagsasalin nito. Dapat din anilang malaman ng pre-trial chamber kung ilan at aling uri na ebidensya ang gagamitin at kung ilang testigo ang balak ipresenta ng personal a viva voce ng prosecution team. Hanggang April 11 naman ang petsang ibinigay ng ICC sa defense team ng dating Pangulo para magsumite ng kanilang reply o tugon, gayon din ang mga posibleng stratehiyang gagamitin, pati na rin ang mga opinyon kaugnay ng impormasyon na isusumite ng prosekusyon. Samantala, sinabi ng China na wala pa silang natatanggap na aplikasyon para sa asylum mula kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte at sa kanyang pamilya. Nanawagan si Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun sa publiko na huwag maniwala sa sinasabi ng so-called insiders na gumagawaan niya ng kwento.
我愿特别指出，杜特尔特先生赴香港系私人度假行程，中方 从未收到所谓杜特尔特前总统及其家人向中国政府寻求庇护的申请。对于某些无中生有或别有用心的所谓知情人士透露，希望媒体朋友们认真甄别，切勿轻信。
Sinabi ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na hindi alternatibo sa foreign troops ang isang United Nations mission. Narito ang report ni NET25 correspondent Rosel Feria.
Sa isang joint press conference kasama si Czech President Petr Pavel sa Kyiv, sinabi ni Pangulong Volodymyr Zelensky ng Ukraine na hindi maituturing na pamalit ang isang UN mission sa deployment ng foreign troops o sa garantiyang pansiguridad ukol sa pagwawakas ng gera nito sa Russia.
Що стосується ООН, при всій повазі ООН нас не захистить від окупації або бажання Путіна прийти знову. Ми не бачимо ООН як альтернативу контингенту або гарантіям безпеки.
Isang araw bago ito, nasa port city ng Odessa si Pavel para makipag-usap sa mga opisyal ng rehiyon nang atakihin ng drones ang lungsod. Ang pag-atake ay habang itinutulak ng Estados Unidos ang Russia-Ukraine peace deal at umaasang sumang-ayon ng kapwa bansa sa isang partial ceasefire na titigilan ng pag-atake sa mga infrastruktura ng dalawang bayan. Matatandaang nanguna si Pavel sa pangangalap ng 1 milyong artillery shells para sa pakikipaglaban ng Ukraine.
One has to be truly cynical when declaring the will to have a peace negotiation or negotiations on ceasefire, and at the same time to launch a massive attack on civilian infrastructure. It's extremely difficult to deal with such a party.
Dagdag ni Zelensky, si Putin ang dahilan kung bakit wala pa ring kasunduan ukol sa tigil putukan.
Вже більше тижня на столі пропозиція повного припинення вогню. І тиші немає тільки тому, що цю пропозицію не сприймає Путін, тому тиск потрібен, тиск на Росію.
Ayon sa Ukrainian President, handang umaksyon ng Kyiv nang mabilis sakaling magkatotoo na ang ceasefire.
Було би добре, щоб зустріч закінчилась якимось результатом, який може нас наближати до повного припинення вогню. І саме від цього буде залежати результат. Якщо сторони дійсно хочуть цього, або роблять вид, що вони цього хочуть. Так, ми цього хочемо, команда буде на достатньо високому рівні, технічно професійні люди, також окремо буде міністр оборони, так, і я думаю, що ми будемо готові бути дуже швидкими і дуже предметними. Я думаю, що питання не з українською командою точно стоїть.
Umugong ang long-range Russian drone sa Ukraine ng makailang beses. Dahil dito, nawasak ang mga infrastruktura, residential houses at commercial buildings sa lungsod ng Odessa. Ayon rin sa Interior Ministry, maraming sunod rin ang umapoy dahil dito. Rosel Feria para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Muling inatake ng Israel ang Gaza. Natulala na lamang at nangilabot ang mga kamag-anakan ng mga biktima pati na rin ang medical workers doon dahil sa dami ng mga nasawi. At dahil po dyan, tinawag ito ng United Nations the largest single-day death toll para sa taong nakalipas. Narito po ang balita mula kay NET25 correspondent NJ de Guzman.
Daan-daang Palestinians na naman ang namatay mula nang patindihin ng Israel ang pag-atake nito muli sa Gaza Strip ngayong linggo. Ayon sa United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund o UNICEF, higit sa 130 bata ang nasawi at daan-daan pang kabataan ang nasaktan. Marami sa mga ito ay hinihinalang nasa ilalim pa ng mga gumuhong gusali at mga tahanan. Tulad na lamang ng bahay ng pamilya Al-Batniji na tinamaan ng Israeli airstrike. Kababalik lamang ng mga ito sa Gaza matapos ilikas ng ilang buwan. Sa kasalukuyan, desperadong hinahanap ng pamilya ang kanilang mga anak matapos ang pag-atake.
ولا حاجة والله بسخنوا مية يا عمو سخلوا آخر إشي والله حممت قاعد بلبس فيه ما سمعنا لحاجة هيك فجأة والله ما في إشي بنتي هذه البنت الوحيدة ضلت لي وربنا رزقني بهذا بالحرب أمانة والله أولادي استشهدوا أنا 4 كمان في الحرب في مرتين هاي ثالث مرة.
Dahil sa biglang pagbobomba, hindi na nakuhang iligtas ng mga magulang nila ang mga batang naglalaro sa labas.
بيلعبوا الصغار هان فجأة مسمنا للضرب فجأة كنا فوق قاعدين واستشهد نصهم ونصهم إصابات كنا نسوة وأول الحرب مجزرة اللي استشهد مرته وبنته وأخوه ومرت عمي وبنت حماتي كلهم راحوا في حزام ناري في الشجاعية وهم نجوا هذول استشهدوا نجوا من الضربة لحزام الناري.
Halos kalahati ng populasyon ng Gaza Strip ay kabataan. Dahil sa kasalukuyang Israeli shelling o pag-atake, nagdurusa ngayon ang mga batang ito ng kalunos-lunos na kondisyon. Sinasabing mga bata at mga kababaihan ang karamihang biktima ng labanan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. Kaugnay ng panibagong mga pag-atake ng Israel, ang bilang ng mga batang biktima na dinadala sa ospital ay umabot na sa hindi pa naabot na bilang mula nang magsimula ang labanan.
استقبلنا عدد كبير من الإصابات كان جلهم من الأطفال. طبيعة الإصابات كانت صراحة إصابات قاتلة للأطفال لأن الأطفال يعني كما تدرون أن الأطفال يعني أجسادهم صغيرة لا تتحمل هذا الكم من المتفجرات وهذه الكم من البربرية.
Nag-issue ang UNICEF ng isang pahayag na naglalarawan ng mga report at imahe mula sa Gaza Strip matapos ang pag-atake ng Israel. Ayon sa pahayag, beyond horrifying o lampas sa kalagim-lagim ang kondisyon doon habang 1 milyong mga bata na naman sa Gaza ang isinabak sa mundo ng takot at kamatayan. NJ de Guzman para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa pagpapatuloy ng pag-atake ng Israel sa Gaza Strip noong 18 ng Marso, nauubos na ang mga medical supplies ng mga pagamutan doon. Ito'y dahil tumataas din ang bilang ng mga biktima na naiipit sa labanan ng Israel at Hamas. Narito ang report ni NET25 correspondent Mula Simbulan.
Nahihirapan ngayon ang medical staff sa Mamadani Hospital sa Gaza City. Ang ospital na ito ngayon ang pangunahing pasilidad sa katimugang bahagi ng teritoryo. Dahil sa pagdagsa ng mga pasyente, sumasagupa ngayon ang staff sa kung paano aasikasuhin ang mga ito. Ipinapakita ng sitwasyon kung gaano katindi ang pangangailangang palawakin ang kapasidad ng mga ospital upang matulungan ang sugatang Palestinians at suportahan ang medical staff sa Gaza Strip. Subalit maraming kagamitang medikal ang matagal ng kulang dahil sa ilang taong pagharang ng Israel at dahil sa ilang buwang laban sa pagitan ng Hamas sa Israel. Dinitalya ni Dr. Ahmed Mohsen, isang surgeon sa Mamadani Hospital, ang sitwasyong medikal ngayon sa teritoryo.
غالبا هناك نقص في الأجهزة، أجهزة متابعة العلامات الحيوية، أجهزة عمل تخطيط للقلب. نواجه الشيء هذا بشكل كبير هنا. في نقص كبير في الأسرة في الأقسام الجراحة وفي الطوارئ وفي العناية المركزة بالأخص. المستشفى تحتاج إلى قسم عناية مركزة كبير، يوجد فقط 3 أسرة للعناية المركزة. في الأقسام هنا ممكن أن يبيت المرضى في الممرات القسم لعدم توفر الأسرة في الغرف.
Inakusahan naman ng isang pasyente ang Israel na sadyang tina-target ang mga ospital upang hindi anya ito magamit ng mga pasyente sa Gaza.
من بداية الحرب العدو الإسرائيلي كان المستهدف المستشفيات والأطقم الطبية، عمل على تدمير جزء منها كبير يمكن 90-80%، وحرمها من الوقود الصالح لإدارة المستشفيات، وحرمهم من معظم الأدوية وخاصة عمليات التخدير برضو حرمهم، وكثير من الأدوية ناقصة منها أدوية مزمنة للضغط والسكر.
Sinasabing tinalikuran ng Israel ang pansamantalang ceasefire sa Gaza dahil hindi ito sumasang-ayon na manatiling kontrolado ng Hamas sa Gaza. Nais din anya ng Israel ng panibagong kasunduan na imumungkahi ng administrasyon ni US President Donald Trump. May nasimulan para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Dumating po si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sa Tel Aviv District Court para magbigay ng kanyang testimonya. Nahaharap si Netanyahu sa 3 iba't ibang kaso ng katiwalian kagaya ng fraud, breach of trust and bribery. Itinanggi ng opisyal ang mga nasabing paratang. Dati na rin nag-plead na not guilty si Netanyahu at sinabing isa lamang itong political coup na ginawa ng pulisya at state prosecution.
Gumanti ng magkakasunod na airstrikes ang Israel sa ilang lugar sa Lebanon na kumitil ng 6 katao matapos muling mag-umpisa ng palitan ng putok sa mga militanteng grupong Hezbollah. Ayon sa Israeli military, nagpaputok umano ng 6 na rocket ang Hezbollah sa Metula, Israel, malapit sa border ng Lebanon, kung saan 3 sa mga ito ang na-intercept nila. Iniulat pa ng Israeli military ang isinagawang airstrike ay nagpawasak sa mga command centers at rocket launchers ng Hezbollah sa Lebanon. Una nang iniutos ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na magpapatupad ito ng matinding hakbang laban sa Lebanon kung saan nakabase ang Iran-backed na grupong Hezbollah. Samantala, ang ginawang airstrike sa Lebanon ay nagdulot naman ng mga pangamba sa posibleng mahinto ang ceasefire. Pinabulaan na naman ng Hezbollah ang akusasyon ng pag-atake sa Israel at iginiit nilang nananatili silang tapat sa ceasefire. Ang mga serye ng sunod-sunod na paglunsad ng mga airstrike ng Israel ay kabalikat lang sa muli nitong pagbibigay babala hinggil sa mga hostages na nais nitong makuha mula sa Hamas na mayroon pang 59 na iba pang hawak at 24 dito ang pinaniniwala ang buhay pa. Umakyat na sa mahigit 50,000 na mga Palestinians ang nasawi sa ginawang pag-atake ng Israel sa Gaza, katumbas ito ng 2.1% ng pre-war population ng Gaza. Ayon sa Palestinian Health Ministry, mayroon ding 113,274 na iba pa ang naitalang sugatan sa insidente.
Kamakailan, naghalal ang Namibia ng kauna-unahang babaeng pangulo nito at sa pag-uumpisa ng panunungkulan ni Netumbo Nandi Ndet25 bilang presidente, nangako itong lalabanan ang kawalan ng trabaho na maraming mamamayan ng kanilang bansa. Narito po ang report ni NET25 correspondent Jonah Malyari.
Noong Biyernes, nangako ang bagong pwestong presidente na si Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah ng Namibia na palalaguin ito ang pamumuhunan sa sektor ng agrikultura at palalawaking pa ang ekonomiya ng bansa bilang paglaban sa mataas na antas ng kawalan ng trabaho.
We pledge to the people of Namibia to diversify our economy for our people to drive maximum benefit from our country's natural resources through value additions. We will increase investment in the development of infrastructures to open investment opportunities, enhance economic productivity, promote economic growth, and improve the quality of life of our people.
Ang 72 taong gulang na si Nandi-Ndaitwah ang pinakaunang babaeng pangulo ng Namibia matapos matiyak ng kanyang partido na SWAPO Party ang tagumpay kapwa sa presidential at parliamentary elections noong Nobyembre. 3 dekada na namumuno ang SWAPO Party sa bansang may 3 milyong mamamayan. Nitong mga nakaraang taon, nakitang maganda ang takbo ng ekonomiya sa bansa dahil sa pamumuhunan sa oil, gas at green hydrogen. Subalit ayon sa World Bank, ang bansa ay ikalawa sa mundo na may hindi pagkakapare-pareho sa sweldo.
We are going to increase investment in the agricultural sector to increase output and meet domestic food requirements. As our founding president taught us, people who cannot feed themselves, they will never be respected.
Nangako rin si Nandi-Ndaitwah na idediversipika ang ekonomiya upang makinabang ng husto ang mga mamamayan sa likas na yaman ng bansa. Anya, kailangan ng bansa na panatiliin ang mataas ng ethical standards para sa public servants gayon din sa paglaban sa korupsyon. Jonna Malari para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, South Korea nagdeklara ng state of emergency dahil sa malawakang wildfires.
Car chase ng Paris police sa traffic violator na uwi sa karambola.
At trial operations para sa routine drone delivery route sa China nagsimula na. Iba pa rin mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
A signal to the world we are open for business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
Nagbabalik ang Mata ng Agila International at sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. Isinailalim na sa state of emergency ang 12 lugar sa timog silangang rehiyon sa South Korea dahil sa patuloy na pagkalat ng wildfires. Bilang tugon sa panganib na dala ng wildfires ay nag-issue na rin ng Korea Forest Service ng severe warning level, ang pinakamataas na baitang ng fire warning. Nag-deploy na ang mga otoridad ng higit sa 1,600 emergency workers, 35 helicopters, ang dose-dose ng firefighting vehicles para labanan ng sunog. Subalit, ayon sa lokal na ulat, nahirapan ang mga ito na apulahin ng higit sa 30 wildfires na sumiklab sa buong bansa dahil sa malakas at yung hangin na umihip dito. At dahil po dito, nakapagtala ang emergency services sa Seoul ng 4 na namatay. Kasama na rito ang 3 bumbero at isang public servant. Halos nasa 1,000 mga individual naman ang inilikas dahil sa wildfires. Kasalukuyang nananatili ang mga ito sa mga itinalagang shelters ng mga otoridad.
Sunog pa rin, nasunog ang isang oil depot sa Krasnodar, Russia matapos ang isang drone attack. Kinumpirma ng regional officials na ang sunog sa depot ay mas lumawak pa. Mula 1,250 square meters ay naging 2,000 square meters na ito. Wala namang naitalang nasawi o nasaktan sa insidente. Hindi rin napinsala ang ibang gusali at tangke sa depot dahil sa sunog. Naapula sa huli ng mga firefighting units ang apoy. Ang depot ay isang rail terminal ng Russian oil supplies para sa isang pipeline patungong Kazakhstan. Ayon sa Russian Foreign Ministry, ang naging pag-atake ng Ukraine ay naging karagdagang paglabag pa sa inihandang kasunduan para itigil na ang mga strikes sa mga energy infrastructures ng dalawang panig bilang bahagi ng mas malawak pang ceasefire para sa gera sa Kyiv.
Nauwi naman sa karambola ng mga sasakyan ang paghabol ng Paris Police sa isang traffic violator matapos umiretso sa pagmamaneho kahit na naka-red light. Sa pulpo sa CCTV ang aktwal na pagsisimula ng karambola sa sulok ng Avenue du Maine at Boulevard du Progrès. Nawala na kasi ng kontrol ang hinahabol na driver at sumalpok ito sa isang traffic light. Sumunod na rito ang 3 kotse ng pulis na sumalpok naman sa kotse ng suspect. Sugatan ang 13 individual kasama ang 3 suspect at 10 pulis. Matapos pa ang insidente ay naaresto naman ng pulisya ang mga suspect. Napag-alaman din na 2 sa mga ito ay may existing records na sa pulisya.
Si Nicholas Prosper, isang 19-year-old mula sa Luton, ay nasentensya ng habang buhay na pagkakabilanggo na may minimum na 49 years dahil sa pagpatay sa kanyang ina, si Juliana Falcon, kanyang nakababatang kapatid na sina Kyle at Giselle. Ang mga pagpatay ay bahagi ng isang mas malaking plano na atakihin ang kanyang dating paaralan na kung saan balak niyang patayin ng 30 iba pa na mga bata para mas maging worst mass murder in British history. Maingat niyang pinlano ang pag-atake sa loob ng maraming buwan. Sinubaybayan ang paaralan, pineke ang lisensya at bumili ng shotgun. Ngunit nabigo ang kanyang balak nang harapin siya ng kanyang ina na humantong sa marahas na sagupaan at pagkamatay ng buong pamilya. Tumawag ng pulis ang mga kapitbahay, sinubukan pa na tumakas ni Nicholas Prosper, ngunit siya ay naaresto at nahuli. Ayon sa korte, nais niyang sumikat sa pamamagitan ng malawakang karahasan. Kinundena ng hukom at mga investigador ang kanyang calculated and selfish intentions. Bagamat na-diagnose siyang may autism spectrum disorder, sinabi ng isang doktor na ang kanyang lack of empathy at remorse ay dulot ng psychopathic traits, hindi ASD. Iginit ng hukom na hindi ito makaaapekto sa kanyang kakayahang maunawaan ang kanyang mga aksyon o kontrolin ang sarili. Kasama ang kanyang ama ay ipinahayag nito na ang sakripisyo ni Juliana, Kyle at Giselle ay nakapigil sa mas malaking trahedya.
Nasabat naman ng US Coast Guard ang 22.5 tons ng cocaine at 50 pounds ng marijuana sa Port Everglades. Ito po ang pinakamalaking drug seizure sa loob ng maraming taon. Sinasabing nagkakahalaga ng $250 billion ang nakumpiskang droga. Ayon pa kay US Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, ang pagkakakumpiskang ito ay patunay ng pangako ng administrasyon ni Trump sa pagbabantay sa border at paglaban sa drug trafficking. Narito po ang karagdagang mga detalye mula kay Anjay de Guzman.
Ang mga droga ay kinumpiska ng tauhan mula sa US Coast Guard cutters sa Stone at Mohawk. Bumahagi ng malaki ang mga ito nang sa paghuli sa smuggling operations sa international waters. Malalaking kaing na puno ng cocaine ang ibinaba sa daungan sa Port Everglades umaga ng Huwebes. Ibinida ni U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem na ang tagumpay na ito ay dahil sa pangakong tinutupad ni Pangulong Donald Trump.
Well, good morning and thank you all for being here. In the first 100 days of President Trump's administration, he's already delivered on his campaign promises of making America safe again and helping the American people to be more secure as well. And today we're here to recognize and to witness another milestone in his mission to protect our borders, to protect our communities, and to stop the flow of illicit drugs and trafficking into the United States of America.
Ani Noem, hindi pa kailanman nakahuli ng ganitong karaming droga.
Today is a historic day. Here at Port Everglades, over 22.5 tons or 45,000 pounds of cocaine and 50 pounds of marijuana are valued at over $500 million are going to be offloaded and taken out of circulation. This is an unprecedented seizure of illicit drugs that is the result of 14 different interdictions of drug smuggling vessels off the coasts of Mexico, Central and South America by the crews of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Stone and Coast Guard cutter Mohawk.
Binigyan diin ni Noem ang lumalalang desperasyon ng drug cartels sa gitna ng matinding paghihigpit sa border.
We've seen the cartels get much more desperate lately. As the border has become more secure and they're not able to follow their traditional routes of trafficking drugs and humans and conducting their violent activities into the country, they've become more desperate, and we've seen more interactions. And obviously you've heard on the news and in reports and in factual information too that even violent activities against our law enforcement officers and those in the military have been escalated, sometimes up to 200% to 300% in some areas, because of what these and those who perpetuate crimes, how they're feeling today with their focus on securing our nation.
Dagdag ni Noem, lalo hindi pababayaan ng administrasyon ang Coast Guards ng bansa. Titiyakin anya nito na mabibigyan ng mga pangangailangan upang matupad ang kanilang gampanin.
Under President Trump's leadership, we are dedicated to also making sure we're addressing the needs of the Coast Guard, making sure that they have the resources that they need, the equipment, the support, and the training, and the infrastructure to come into the next century protecting and defending our country. They are the premier law enforcement maritime agency in the world, and our support and what we provide for them to do that with is incredibly important. That means that we are going to maintain our vast maritime domain and that we're going to ensure that we continue to lead the way.
NG de Guzman para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa isa na namang protesta sa Estados Unidos, nagrally ang mga empleyado at mga taga-suporta ng National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration o NOAA. Tinututulan ng mga ito ang planong mass layoffs ng Trump administration sa ahensya. Si Ana Queen nagbabalik para sa balita.
Noong Huwebes, kapit-brasong pinalibutan ng mga demonstrador ang headquarters ng National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration o NOAA sa Maryland. Tinututulan ng mga ito ang mass layoffs na isinasagawa ngayon ni Pangulong Donald Trump at ni Department of Government Efficiency Chief Elon Musk. Humarap si Congressman Jamie Raskin sa mga nagrarally at sinabing lalabanan ng mga ito kahit saan.
So we're going to fight them in the courts, and we're going to fight them in the House, and we're going to fight them in the Senate. We're going to fight them in the streets. We're going to fight them at NOAA. We're going to fight them at FDA. We're going to fight them at the Department of Education. We're going to fight them at the Department of Justice. We're going to fight them all over America, in the state capitals, in the city halls, in the county halls, and we're going to win. We're going to defend American democracy.
Ang NOAA ay ahensya na nagbibigay ng weather forecast sa bansa. Nasa ilalim rin nito ang National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center at 2 tsunami warning centers na itinituring na naghahatid ng mahalagang impormasyon upang tulungan ng mga mamamayan ng US na maligtas sa weather emergencies. Nakatakda na namang magsisante ang ahensya ng higit sa 1,000 empleyado. Kamakailan, sumibak na ito ng 1,300 na mga empleyado gamit ang mass firing ng probationary workers at ng voluntary buyout program. Nanawagan si Raskin na kumapit ang mga demonstrador sa demokrasya, siyensya at katotohanan sa bansa.
Hang tough with NOAA, hang tough with FDA, hang tough with NIH, hang tough with the federal workers, and hang tough for democracy, science, and truth in America.
Anakwi para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Lumagda ng isang executive order si US President Donald Trump upang pataasin ang produksyon ng mineral. Ayon kay Trump, may mga kasunduan ng Estados Unidos sa iba't ibang lugar para magmina ng rare earth minerals at isa na nga anya rito ang Ukraine. Inaasahan din ng Pangulo na sa pamamagitan ng pakikipag-usap kina Russian President Vladimir Putin at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ay matatapos na ang digmaan. Nais ni Trump na wakasan na ang Ukraine war upang mailigtas ang libo-libong buhay ng mga taong nadaramay sa giyera.
And moments ago, I also signed an executive order to dramatically increase production of critical minerals and rare earths. It's a big thing in this country, and as you know, we're also signing agreements in various locations to unlock rare earths and minerals and lots of other things all over the world, but in particular Ukraine. We're doing very well with regard to Ukraine and Russia. And one of the things we are doing is signing a deal very shortly with respect to rare earths with Ukraine, which they have tremendous value in rare earth, and we appreciate that. And we spoke yesterday with, as you know, President Putin and President Zelensky, and we would love to see that come to an end, and I think we're doing pretty well in that regard. So hopefully we could save thousands of people a week from dying. That's what it's all about. They're dying. And I even see Dan Patrick over there.
Naglunsad na po ang Shanxi branch ng China Post ng kailang trial operation para sa pinakaunang routine drone delivery route sa Shanglu. Ayon sa China Post, ang drone ay naka-install sa navigation systems para makalapag ito na matagumpay sa mga designated village service sites. Kumpara sa karaniwang delivery route na kinakailangan ng 7 oras sa pamamagitan ng manual labor, ay mababawasan na ito ng 4 na oras sa tulong ng delivery drone. Inaasahan ng China Post na malaki ang magiging tulong ng drone delivery model na ito sa pag-address sa mga hamon sa mga pag-deliver ng mga parcels sa mga bulubunduking lugar at mapababa rin ito ang gastusin nila sa labor force.
Muling sinorpresa ni Pinay tennis ace Alex Agila ang mga nanonood ng Miami Open matapos na talunin nito si world number 5 Madison Keys ng Estados Unidos. Nakuha ng 19 anyos sa si Agila ang score na 6-4, 6-2 para makapasok sa round of 16 ng torneo. Siya ang unang Pinay sa Open era na nakatalo sa top 10 na kalaban mula nang ipatupad ang ranking system noong 1975. Ang nasabing panalo ay ilang araw nang talunin nito si world number 25 na si Jelena Ostapenko sa ikalawang round ng torneo. Sa opening set pa lamang ay naging agresibo si Agila kung saan tuloy-tuloy ang ginawang pag-atake sa American tennis player. Pinasalamatan ni Agila ang pamilya at mga Pilipino na nanood ng kanyang laro. Susunod na makakaharap ni Agila si world number 10, Paula Badosa ng Spain.
Kumita po ng mahigit $87.3 million ang pelikulang Snow White. Subalit, alam niyo po ba na ayon sa mga box office analysts ay mababa pa rin ito kumpara naman sa $270 million production cost ng nasabing pelikula. Nakaapektuhan nila sa pagtaas ng ticket sales ng Snow White ay ang kontrobersyang kinasasangkutan ng mga artista nito. Marami ang tutol na maging bida at Snow White si Rachel Zegler dahil hindi naman daw maputi ang kutis nito Samantalang ang kutis ni Snow White ay inilarawan na kasimputi ng niebe o snow. Hindi rin pabor ang ilan kay Gal Gadot na gumanap bilang evil queen na stepmother naman ni Snow White dahil naman daw sa mga komento nito na pabor sa Israel. Hindi rin nagustuhan na maraming manonood ang paggamit ng Disney ng computer-generated imagery o CGI sa pelikulang Snow White. Sa kabila nito, hindi pa rin maitatago na patuloy na humahakot ng ticket sales ang pinakabagong live-action version ng Disney.
Nagdiwang ng kanyang 96th birthday ang tinaguriang Princess of Polka Dots na si Yayoi Kusama. March 22, 2025, sumapit ang ika-96th birthday ni Yayoi. Kilala ang kanyang mga artworks sa signature design nito na polka dots at dinarayo rin ang kanyang mga installations kagaya na lamang ng Infinity Mirror Rooms. Kaugnay ng pagdiriwang ng kanyang kaarawan, bukas pa rin sa publiko ang Yayoi Kusama Exhibition sa Melbourne, Australia na nagsimula noong December 15, 2024 at matatapos sa April 21, 2025. Ito ay binuo bilang pagkilala sa natatanging galing at husay sa sining ni Kusama.
At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi po. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako naman si Nina Richie Alago Flores, ito pa rin ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Filipino supporters in the Netherlands, Cyprus, and Jerusalem rallied, demanding former President Rodrigo Duterte's release. Political turmoil continues to grip South Korea. Today, the Constitutional Court reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, reversing his impeachment nearly 3 months ago. And the news starts now. Filipino supporters in the Netherlands, Cyprus, and Jerusalem rallied, demanding former President Rodrigo Duterte's release.
Ipinunta namin dito ay para suportahan si Pangulong Duterte para maibalik sa Pilipinas at kung ano man yung kaso niya, dapat sa atin litisin. Yun ang nararapat.
Yun lang ang kahilingan po, maibalik si Tatay Digong po. Yun lang po ang aming gustong mangyari.
Opo, ibalik po at para doon po siya litisin, hindi po dito. Kasi ang dignity ng Pilipino nakakakuan po kapag ganun po eh. Maraming salamat po. Dapat ibalik na ang ating dating presidente ng Pilipinas dahil marami siyang ginawa sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat.
Former palace official Harry Roque said plans for a birthday motorcade on March 28 are underway, coinciding with Duterte's 80th birthday. Filipino supporters in Limassol, Cyprus, a coastal city on the island's southern coast, rallied this week to demand former President Rodrigo Duterte's release from the ICC. Protesters gathered near landmarks like Limassol Castle, waving flags and banners. Now, Limassol, Cyprus' second-largest city, is a hub for tourism and business. It's also a strategic location between ancient cities like Amethyst and Kurion, makes it a crossroads for global communities, including Filipino expats. Supporters argue Duterte's detention violates Philippine sovereignty. Meanwhile, Filipino supporters gathered in Dan Satcher Park, Jerusalem's central green space. Dan Satcher Park, often called Jerusalem Central Park, is a hub for cultural and political events. While the park typically hosts festivals like the Jerusalem March, the footage shows a rare Filipino-led protest there. Meanwhile, we have an update. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jikan announced that China has not received any asylum applications from former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte or his family. Guo clarified that Duterte's recent trip to Hong Kong was for personal holidays.
I would like to point out specifically that Mr. Duterte's visit to Hong Kong was a private vacation. China has never received a so-called application for asylum from the former President Duterte and his family to the Chinese government. For those so-called insiders who make things up or have ulterior motives, we hope that media friends will carefully make their own judgments and not take any truths from what they are saying.
As you may recall, Duterte was arrested on March 11 at Manila's main airport upon his return from Hong Kong, and the arrest was made at the request of the ICC, which is investigating allegations related to the war on drugs campaign during his presidency. Reports had surfaced suggesting that Duterte sought asylum in China prior to his arrest. However, these claims have been denied by Duterte's legal counsel and dismissed by Philippine government officials. Former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque labeled the notion of Duterte seeking asylum in China as impossible, noting that China is not a signatory to the 1951 Convention on Refugees and does not grant asylum. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is calling for due process in the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte, urging media neutrality and respect for the rule of law. In a Facebook post, this is what he said.
You have a court, you have a system that's working, that you can go to and you can run to, and you give them reasonable time. Di naman namin sinasabi na 15 days, 30 days, 2 months, hindi nag-action yung korte. Huwag niyong gawin yung tama, yung dapat tingin yung tamang gawin, di ba? Mahirap po magpaliwanag sa Hague. At anong gagawin ng embassy doon after makita yung nangyari dito? Will they give assistance to PRRD knowing na dito hindi natin hinintay yung korte? Paano yung mga lawyers na kailangan niya doon? Paano yung doctors na kailangan niya doon? So, it just boggles my mind. How we could put him on a plane, then just say sa Hague na lang magpaliwanag, no? Due process, there is no power in this world that is above due process. Not the United States of America, not the United Nations, not NATO, not the ICC. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, ang God above us eh. Meron pong confusion ngayon. Ang point lang po namin mga abogado, may legal remedies hindi mo pwedeng i-deny at saka yung due process. So yung due process pumapasok yun kung ibibigay mo yung legal remedy.
Political turmoil continues to grip South Korea. Today, the Constitutional Court reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, reversing his impeachment nearly 3 months ago. And this comes after President Yoon Suk-yeol was himself impeached for a controversial martial law declaration. Here's more.
현명한 결정에 감사드립니다.
I am grateful for the wise decision made by the Constitutional Court. I am deeply grateful to all members of the Cabinet for their dedication during the suspension of my duties. I will address the urgent situations first.
Han, who briefly served as acting president, was impeached after a clash with Parliament over judicial appointments, but the court, in a 7-1 ruling, overturned that decision, saying while the impeachment motion had merit, the grounds for removing him were insufficient.
The petition for trial in this case is dismissed. There is no evidence or objective data to prove that Han actively acted to give procedural justification for the declaration of emergency martial law, such as proposing a cabinet meeting, or that he did not suggest convening a cabinet meeting after the National Assembly passed a resolution to lift martial law.
The impeachment saga has plunged South Korea, a key U.S. ally, into a period of intense political instability. Han, a veteran politician with decades of experience, now faces the challenge of restoring order and navigating a global trade war, as he vowed to do in a speech following the ruling.
저는 대통령 권한대행으로서
As acting president, I will put all my efforts to maintain a stable administration in accordance with the Constitution and laws, and I will use every wisdom and ability to securing Korea's national interests amid the trade war that has already become a reality.
The court's decision marks the latest twist in a political crisis that has seen a rapid succession of impeachments and resignations, leaving the nation grappling with uncertainty.
Autonomous technology is
Several people have died as forest fires engulf parts of southeastern South Korea. Over 9,000 staff and 105 helicopters were deployed to quell fires engulfing mainly southeastern regions of South Korea, damaging residential buildings and a temple. More than 1,500 residents took shelter as the fires wiped out around 6,328 hectares of forest. Officials also said several people had been injured. 3 of the 4 people reported dead were firefighters, while 1 was a public servant, according to Yonhap News Agency. Meanwhile, wildfires are raging across western Japan, forcing hundreds to flee their homes. Take a look. In Okayama Prefecture, a massive forest fire burning for over 20 hours has consumed more than 250 hectares. Firefighters, aided by helicopters from the self-defense forces, are battling the blaze as evacuation orders are issued for nearly 900 residents. Officials warned the fires could spread into residential areas at the foot of the mountains. Meanwhile, in Ehime Prefecture, another forest fire is spreading rapidly, driven by westerly winds towards Saijo City. Hundreds of firefighters and helicopters are deployed, and the self-defense forces providing additional support. Authorities are urging residents near both fires to evacuate immediately as the blazes continue to threaten homes and property. Meanwhile, wildfires are raging across the Carolinas, forcing evacuations and emergency declarations. In North Carolina, 3 uncontained fires in Polk County have burned 4,000 plus acres, with mandatory evacuations in place. Debris from Hurricane Helene is fueling the flames. Crews are battling steep terrain and downed trees. A code red air quality alert urges residents to stay indoors. Rain is forecast Monday, but risks may return later this week. In South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency for the Table Rock fire, now at 110 acres. A statewide outdoor burning ban is in effect. And news from the conflict zone in Ukraine, Russian forces have initiated ceasefire talks as the situation intensifies. Ukrainian officials report that strikes from nearly 150 Russian drones have claimed at least 6 lives. In response, Russian authorities claim they shot down almost 60 Ukrainian drones. These attacks came just hours before U.S. officials met with Ukrainian negotiators in Saudi Arabia.
Зараз, після минулої зустрічі в Саудівській Аравії.
Now, after the last meeting in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, it is absolutely clear to everyone in the world that Russia is the only one prolonging this war, the only one who brought it here, and who needs it to continue. Since March 11th, there has been a proposal for an unconditional ceasefire, and such attacks would have already stopped. But it is Russia that continues all of this, and every night, every day, it carries out the most cynical strikes. Without pressure on Russia, they will continue in Moscow to disregard true diplomacy and keep destroying lives.
І будуть зневажати справжню дипломатію. Будуть і надалі руйнувати життя.
Last night in Kiev, 3 people were killed by Russian drones, including a father and his 5-year-old daughter. A Russian strike in Zaporizhzhia the day before took the lives of an entire family, mother, father, and daughter. My condolences to all their loved ones.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's defense minister Rustem Umerov described Sunday's talks with the U.S. delegation in Saudi Arabia as constructive and meaningful, with key discussions centering on the energy sector. These discussions form part of a broader diplomatic initiative led by U.S. President Trump to end the three-year conflict sparked by Russia's full-scale invasion. Additional talks between U.S. and Russian officials began today in Saudi Arabia, aiming to advance a comprehensive ceasefire in Ukraine. Washington is also pursuing a separate maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea to ensure the free flow of shipping, a zone that have seen comparatively limited military action in recent months. On the U.S. side, senior officials Andrew Peek from the White House, National Security Council, and Michael Anton of the State Department are spearheading the negotiations. Russia is represented by former diplomat Grigory Karasin and Sergei Besida, advisor to the head of its Federal Security Service. Meanwhile, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said he's optimistic that the Trump administration can broker a 30-day ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. During a conversation with conservative talk show host Tucker Carlson in an interview aired last Friday.
That we're going to want everybody to be, in some respect, satisfied. So we're going to want the Russians to be satisfied in some respect. We're going to want the Ukrainians to be satisfied in some respect. We're talking to the Europeans. When I say satisfied, feeling that we came out of this thing, okay, with a deal that everybody can live with. I think that we have moved Russia in ways that no one thought was possible. So in the last conversation, they agreed to an energy infrastructure ceasefire, which means Russia is not going to target Ukraine's energy infrastructure, and Ukraine will not target Russia's energy infrastructure. They've never talked about that before. Here we are talking about that. They've never talked about reinstituting the Black Sea moratorium on maritime hits. Ukraine firing on Russian ships, Russia firing on Ukrainian ships. Now we're down to, and that's going to be implemented.
Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney is taking a bold step, calling a snap election for April 28. And this move comes as tensions with U.S. President Donald Trump escalate, with tariffs and threats to Canada's sovereignty dominating the campaign. Trump has repeatedly suggested Canada should become the 51st U.S. state and impose tariffs on Canadian goods, sparking fears of economic fallout. Take a look.
New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called a snap election for April 28th, saying he needed a strong mandate to deal with the threat posed by U.S. President Donald Trump.
We are facing the most significant crisis of our lifetimes because of President Trump's unjustified trade actions and his threats to our sovereignty.
The comments are a sign of how relations between the two longtime allies and major trading partners have deteriorated. Trump has imposed tariffs on Canadian goods and threatened to annex it as its 51st state.
He wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen. We're over the shock of the betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Carney's remarks. Carney, who was sworn in on March 14th, captured the Liberal leadership by persuading party members he was the best person to tackle Trump. The next election was not due until October, but Carney's hoping to capitalize on his party's remarkable recovery in the polls since January. It follows former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation as well as Trump's threats. Earlier this month, Trump delayed a broad 25% tariff on some Canadian goods for 30 days. He has since imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports and threatened reciprocal tariffs on additional goods, including Canadian dairy and lumber, starting April 2nd. Canadians are rallying for their country and seeing a resurgence in nationalism.
And when we are attacked, we stand together.
On Saturday, residents gathered in Toronto to denounce U.S. tariffs. Canada-U.S. relations top the list of issues preoccupying residents, according to recent polls. Carney, a former two-time central banker with no previous political or election campaign experience, now has 5 weeks to win over Canadians. On Sunday, Carney proposed cutting the lowest income tax bracket by 1 percentage point. Polls suggest the Liberals, who have been in power since 2015, have slightly pulled ahead of the official opposition Conservatives, who had led earlier in the year. The Conservatives have sought to portray Carney as an elitist, who plans to continue the Trudeau-era policy of high government spending.
In the heart of Georgetown, Washington, D.C., a Tesla dealership became the focal point for a protest against tech billionaire Elon Musk. Percival Parlare reports on the demonstrators' message.
In the historic and commercial Washington, D.C. neighborhood of Georgetown, dozens of anti-Elon Musk protesters rally outside a Tesla dealership. This is just one of the several dozen demonstrations against Elon Musk advertised in the U.S., Western Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Passing vehicles in this upmarket and liberal part of the American capital honk their horns in support for the protests against the Tesla owner's influence on the government of President Donald Trump. Protesters Rose says showing up at the demonstration is her way of exercising the right to free speech, something she says is in danger.
What's happening here is that U.S. citizens are exercising their free speech in a peaceful way to protest what's happening with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the undermining of our democracy, the cutting of services, the cutting of foreign aid, the cutting of free speech, the threatening of judges, and all the things that are happening that are undermining democracy and our place in the world.
Refusing to surrender to fear, another demonstrator, Melissa Knutson, says she is protesting with joy.
That we are protesting this authoritarian regime with joy. One of the things that authoritarians like to do is to squash dissent. They like to instill fear. And we have no fear because we are free, we are Americans, we have our First Amendment rights. And we are just coming out with joy and showing other people that they're not alone.
Musk, as chief of the Department of Government Efficiency, has drastically reduced the federal workforce in recent weeks. Trump won re-election last year on a program that included deep cuts to government spending. True to his promise, the two-time president has frozen billions of dollars in foreign aid and sacked more than 20,000 federal workers. Meanwhile, tech billionaire Musk says he has cut tens of billions of federal dollars. Some analysts, however, contest this claim. Percival Parlare for NET25 World News.
Residents of Port-au-Prince say they continue to live in fear of organized crime. And this just days after prosecutors in the United States charged powerful Haitian gang leader Johnson Andre.
Armored vehicles patrol the streets of the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. Gunshots can be heard in the distance. Residents say they have lost everything they own, even their homes, to gang warfare. Refugee Agata Auguste describes how gangs are taking over their lives and that they have nowhere else to go.
Right now, we have nowhere to go. Everywhere we want to go is controlled by gangs. The armed group has announced that they will come here to Champs de Mars. There's no one else here at the Rex Theater in Champs de Mars but us. The gangs are coming for us, and in this situation, our backpacks are ready, but we don't know whether we should go up or down, as there's no place for us to go.
Augusta says all she has left are the shoes she needs to run when it comes time.
This is all I have in my life to take with me if I run or leave. This is the only pair of shoes I have to wear. The gangs forced me out of Carrefour Feuille.
Haiti's violent gangs have significantly expanded their control over territory in the Caribbean island nation. This especially in the capital, Port-au-Prince. A prolonged security crisis marked by frequent shootouts have caught thousands of civilians in the crossfire. 1 million people are now homeless in Haiti due to gang conflict. The United Nations has warned that this conflict is being fueled by guns shipped from Florida. In an unfavorable move for hopeless residents seeking refuge from the violence, the U.S. government last month sped up the expiration of deportation protections and work permits for 520,000 Haitians covered by a temporary program by some 6 months. Meanwhile, Haiti is also amongst 40 countries the U.S. government is considering imposing travel restrictions as part of President Donald Trump's crackdown on migration. Arlene Ocampo for NET25 World News.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Ang mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan, ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa NET25! 100%!
Sa NET25, let's live together. Sa NET25.
As China faces increasing economic challenges, including new U.S. tariffs and concerns over fentanyl, it's hosting a crucial business summit to convince foreign companies that it remains a viable market. Here's more.
China is trying to convince foreign company chiefs it's still a good place to do business. On Sunday and Monday, Beijing hosted a forum for top CEOs. In attendance were the heads of companies including Apple, Qualcomm and AstraZeneca. China is keen to woo investment as trade tensions mount. US President Donald Trump has already imposed a new 20% tariff on all Chinese goods and threatened to do more.
If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial.
He's accused Beijing of doing too little to stem the flow of fentanyl into the US, something China strongly denies. On Sunday, Trump-supporting Republican Congressman Steve Daines met Chinese Premier Li Qiang. It was the first time a US politician has visited China since Trump took office. And it comes as Beijing seeks a high-level dialogue in the hope of averting further tariffs. Daines called the meeting a chance to air US views on the business environment in the country. Speaking at the corporate forum that day, Li urged countries to open their markets to combat what he called rising instability. State broadcaster CCTV says some 86 company representatives from 21 countries attended the event, with American firms the largest national contingent. However, a Reuters source said the number of US chiefs was down from last year. Later in the week, some of those business leaders are expected to meet up with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
The future of robotics is here. Boston Dynamics has released a stunning new video showcasing their humanoid robot, Atlas, demonstrating incredible agility. Take a look. This isn't your average robot walk. Atlas is seen running, crawling, and performing complex maneuvers, all driven by advanced reinforcement learning. Researchers at Boston Dynamics, in partnership with the Robotics and AI Institute, have used human motion capture to teach Atlas these astonishing movements. The level of control and fluidity is remarkable. It's not just about moving, it's about moving with a level of precision and adaptability we've never seen before in humanoid robots. And this breakthrough could have huge implications for everything from search and rescue to complex industrial tasks. It's a glimpse into a future where robots are not just tools, but dynamic partners. Pretty amazing to watch. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported